Hey Mystery Crew, it's Mystery Girl with Missy, and I'm Missy. Welcome back. I want to thank all of my subscribers, my new subscribers, and my subscribers that have been with me from the very beginning. Your support truly means so much to me. I can't even express how much I appreciate it. I do have up my fair use disclosure for the video and for the photo videos that I have used. And I also have up my disclaimer because we are going to get into some detail that may warrant this. So let's deep dive into more of the victims than just the Gilgo 4. What about the Manorville 4 and the Asian male? This is the area in Manorville where the bodies were found between 2000 and 2003. They talk about 3 bodies that were found there, but there was actually 4. There are actually 2 Jane Does, not only 1. We hear constantly about 1, but there is actually 2. We're also going to get into the Asian male, and we're going to get into the other victims that have not been spoken about. So stay tuned towards the end of the video so you can see how when I discuss this case, I talk about over 20 victims. And people have questioned me, who are these 20 people? Well, stay tuned to the end of the video and you will see who these 20 victims are. Before we dive into Manorville, hit that thumbs up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're going to start with Valerie Mack, who was Manorville Jane Doe number 6. Valerie Mack was Jane Doe number 6 until the year 2020. So for over 20 years almost, she was Jane Doe number 6. And she was actually identified by, they used sites like 23andMe, and then by that they reached out to family and there was a positive ID to an aunt and a definite positive ID to her very own son. Which is very sad. Valerie Mack was 24 years old and she lived in Philadelphia. She weighed between 100 and 120 pounds. She was about 5'1" to 5'5" inches. She went missing in the spring of 2000 and she was never reported missing. She was found on November 19th in a wooded area west of Hazley Manor Road in Manorville near a nature trail. So her torso was actually found there in a garbage bag on November 19th of 2000. Her skull and hands and foot, they were found April 4th, 2011 when they were doing the search for Shannon Gilbert. She was identified through the genealogy site in the year 2020. During the time when she went missing, she was working as an escort in Philadelphia. Family members last saw Valerie in the spring or the summer in Port Public, New Jersey. And if you remember, Shannon Gilbert was also from New Jersey. Her last known whereabouts were in Philadelphia in or around the year of 2000. She was dumped in the woods near an intersection in Mill Pond of Manorville. Now, November 19th of the year 2000, a woman's torso was discovered in a wooded area by, I believe it was a woman walking her dog. And May 22nd of 2020, Suffolk County Police Department said in a statement they had positively identified Jane Doe number 6, which came back to Valerie Mack, who also used the name of Melissa Taylor as a work name. In 2011, her remains were also found along Ocean Parkway between Oak Beach and Gilgo Beach. When Valerie was found in Manorville, her legs were bound like a hunter would do it, tying up the legs and bringing up the knees to the chest area. And she's the very first Manorville victim. John Bitloff is actually still a suspect, as well as Rex Heuermann, in the murder of Valerie Mack. The connection is to how her remains were separated between Manorville and Oak Beach. So that's where the connection of Rex Heuermann comes in. So there is a connection to Rex Heuermann. So, it's just very sad that her name is not really brought up very much. And she matters. They all matter. All victims matter. And as we go on and you start seeing faces put to these people, you're going to be like, well, they only talk about the Gilgo 4. Well, here are the Manorville 4, and I'm laying them out for you one at a time. These girls may have been in the sex trade, they may have been prostitutes, dancers, or whatever, but they were still human beings, and they still need to have justice and be able to finally rest at peace. I mean, we still have Jane and John Doe's 27 years later. So, with Commissioner Harrison retiring or, leaving as commissioner, I'm actually very worried that this case is going to become cold again in many ways. And these victims that are not spoken about just kind of stay there as they were for many years. And it's only going to continue. The Gilgo 4, the Gilgo 4. Well, what about the Manorville 4? What about Karen Vergata? What about the Asian male? What about the other, oh my God, many, many victims? So this needs to be discussed. The next of the Manorville 4 is Jessica Taylor, where part of her remains were found in Manorville in 2003 and the other half on Gilgo in 2011. She was 20 years old. Sex worker. She was 5 foot 3 inches tall, and her weight was about 125 pounds. She went missing on July 21st, 2003. She is reported to be from Washington, D.C. So I haven't really been able to confirm that, but that's how it's reported, is that she's from Washington, D.C. And it's also reported that she was never reported missing. It's also said that she was from a small upstate town. She was last seen in Manhattan, New York on July 21st, 2003, and was found in Manorville on July 26th, 2003, by a woman walking her dog. So she's the one that was found by the woman walking her dog. I'm sorry, it was not Valerie. 1 mile from where a torso was found, who would have been Valerie, on November 19th, 2000, of another woman known as Valerie Mack. So Valerie and Jessica Taylor were only found 1 mile apart from each other. The killer attempted to obscure the tattoo that she had that was supposedly on her right hip. And it looked like it was cut off. Like somebody literally took a razor blade to it and tried to destroy the tattoo in an effort that she wouldn't be able to be identified by her tattoo. So she was actually the first one that is found after the Gilgo 4 were found. After the Gilgo 4 were found, Jessica Taylor was found on Gilgo. And that's where her skull, forearm, and hands were found in 2003. She was naked in 2011. Her head and hands were found on Oak Beach on March 29th, 2011. Suffolk County Police returned to Gilgo Beach to continue the search for Shannon Gilbert. 1 mile east of the original site, these additional remains were found. So again, she was 1 mile away from Valerie Mack and 1 mile away from the Gilgo 4. She was in Manorville. She was found in a wooded area right off the Long Island Expressway and Hazley Manor Road. Medical examiner believes she was dead for about 2 or 3 days before she was discovered. So Jessica Taylor was first found again on July 26, 2003 in Manorville, and then second in Gilgo Beach on March 29, 2011. She worked near the Port Authority bus terminal between July 18th and the 21st, once known as Minnesota Strip in the 1970s. She was arrested in Atlantic City, New York, and D.C. When she was found in a burlap sack. Her legs were tied, bound in a ball, like a hunter would do, just like Valerie Mack. Originally, it said that she is from Poughkeepsie and moved to Brooklyn. She started working as a sex worker at the age of 17, spending 3 years under the control of Killier White, a pimp known as Remy, which later, when she was found, they had to squish her body together to make out what the tattoo said because it was so badly mutilated with razor blades. And that's how they matched up Remy, who was Killier White, to Jessica Taylor. During a trip to Washington, D.C., Jessica decided to return to New York City. She left on July 15, 2003, and was reported missing by her pimp, Killier White, later that day. Jessica was reportedly seen a few days later, though, at the Port Authority bus terminal on July 18th to the 21st. Days later, on July 26th, is when her mutilated body was found by a dog walker in a sheet or a plastic, nude, decapitated, missing her hands in Manorville. We're going to go back to her tattoo for a second. So I told you that the killer mutilated her tattoo, and it was on her right side, her hip, or close to around her back, and that the medical examiner needed to push it back together. What I didn't mention was when it was pushed together, they were able to tell that it was a red heart with an angel wing that said Remy's angel. Now Remy, who was Killier White, was her pimp. So that's how they were able to trace her back to Killier White. So the tattoo is a symbolization, I guess you can say, as belonging to her pimp. So she was actually reported missing by him. I guess you could say she was his girl. A lot of times prostitutes did have tattoos that symbolized their pimp to show that they were already spoken for. So, and it was actually the pimp that Killier White that told, I don't know if it was authorities or reporters, but he is the one that said that she was wrapped in burlap. So that's kind of crazy. What we do need to remember is that these girls were more than just sex workers. They were somebody's daughter. They were somebody's sister. They were somebody's mother. They were, they had interests. They had likes. They had dislikes. They had personalities. I hate that they are just referred to as sex workers. And actually, that's what put this off for so many years is, it was a sex worker. Well, they were people. And they were just trying to support themselves. And somebody comes to them and says, well, you can make this much money. And it was like, oh, wow, I can do that in this much time and, get things situated a lot faster. And, so they make it out to be such a beautiful life and how much money they can make. And unfortunately, that is what they're referred to as sex workers. And there's so much more than that, and that needs to be remembered. Jessica's been described as a true force by her family. She didn't easily take disrespect. She watched Nick at Night with friends, knew how to double dutch, and she taught her friends how to double dutch. These girls were people. They weren't only sex workers. This is the newspaper article that was released regarding Jessica Taylor. It says, decapitated body found in Manorville while walking her dog yesterday through a wooded stretch of off of Hazley Manor Road in Manorville, a woman discovered the decapitated body of an unidentified woman. The unclothed body was found lying on a pile of branches near the Long Island Expressway, Suffolk police said. This is it's so heartbreaking. It really is. Her hands had been cut off and her body decomposed to the point where even pinpointing her race is difficult. Suffolk police suspect she is Caucasian and are checking missing person database for matches. The purpose of removing the victim's hands was most likely to prevent us from identifying her. They can't get fingerprints if there's no hands. Most likely to prevent us from identifying the victim, said Detective Lieutenant Jack Fitzpatrick, commanding officer of the Suffolk Homicide Squad. Police believe the woman was most likely dumped there after she was killed. They don't know how long the body was there and that an autopsy is scheduled. And like I said, she was later identified through genealogy sites such as 23andMe. They were able to track family and give her an identification. Number 3 of the Manorville 4 is Manorville John Doe, number 2. Like I said, there is more than one John Doe. He was approximately 35 to 50 years old and found on November 10th of 2003, badly decomposed 400 yards south of the Long Island Expressway, which is 495, near Topping Path in Manorville, New York. 3 miles east of the woods, Jessica Taylor and Valerie Mack were found. This is near Long Island Expressway exit 71. Now, I want you to remember this for a future video. There is a rest stop along Route 24 after the Edwards exit that was known as a cruising spot for gay sex workers. This is also known as New York 24 and begins at exit 71. I want you to think who recently in August was arrested at Bald Hill in Farmingville for soliciting sex. Who was it? I have to say it. It was Officer Chief James Burke. So, could there be a connection here? Could there be a connection? And there's also other connections to the next John Doe that we're going to get into. And we're going to kind of get into that a little bit towards the end of the video. So, John Doe number 2, his body was so badly decomposed that the gender was not immediately clear. That's so sad. There was no trauma done to the skeleton. He was a white man, about 5 foot 6 inches tall, brown hair, and his body was intact. He was actually found in his underwear. And like I said, Jessica Taylor was also found there, but these two were found in the same year. They were both found in 2003. And they actually were able to identify him in 2015. He's been identified, but the family requested not to release his name. Now, Shannon Gilbert's attorney, John Ray, applied the Freedom of Information law, but Suffolk County Police Department refused to comply. So this can actually possibly be a civil right violation of illegally refusing to release documentation. So I don't know what's going on with that. I do know John Ray did try to get the information. His name has not been identified still. This is 2023, and he was identified in 2015. So his identity is being held under wraps. I don't know why. I don't know if it's part of that big cover-up that was going on in Suffolk County. But he does have an identity, and they're not releasing it. I understand that, family does deserve some privacy. But again, a lawyer requesting under the Freedom of Information law and not being supplied that information, that's kind of odd to me. I could see not releasing it to the press, but not releasing it to a attorney. That one kind of doesn't sit too well with me. Now let's get into number 4 of the Manorville 4, which is John Doe, number 3. He was found on February 17th of 2012, and it was declared a homicide. There was duct tape wrapped around his face. Also determined to be around the age of 30 to 40. He was found, like I said, on February 17th of 2012 in Manorville by a man walking his dog. So this time it was a man. The skull was sticking out from under the leaves, as you can see in this photo right here. He was wrapped in a bed sheet, wrapped in a plastic bag, and bound with duct tape. Like Megan Waterman and Amber Castillo were. They were both found the same way with the duct tape. Now, he also had on green tube socks as well as a pair of Eddie Bauer extra large underwear found near the body. The man had spondylosis of the 5th lumbar vertebral, healed fracture on the right hand fibula. The remains were believed to be there for about a decade. That would be around 2002. The other John Doe was found around 2003. If you look in this photo right here, you can see the silver sticking out. That's the duct tape around the man's face. This man is still a John Doe, and very little information is available. Now we're going to get into the Asian male, who was John Doe since April 4th of 2011 when he was found on Gilgo Beach. He was determined to be between the age of 17 to 23 on Ocean Parkway on April 4th, 2011. He was beat to death, a cross-dresser. Now, I want you to remember that James Burke, Chief James Burke, also beat Christopher Loeb. So he had a history of beating people. Prior to his death, he was missing the top and bottom molars and one front tooth. Rex Uerman, when they were searching his information, on his computer, there was information that said Asian twink porn about effeminate Asian men. So effeminate means behaving kind of like a woman. And the Asian male was a cross-dresser. He, like I said, was between the age of 17 and 23, 5 foot 6 inches tall, was said to have poor dental health. The hair and eye color could not be determined. He went missing sometime between 2001 and 2006 and was estimated to be there for at least 5 to 10 years prior to his discovery and prior to being found. Never reported missing, and to this day, 27 years later, he is still known as John Doe number 8 and does not have a name. So there's possible musculoskeletal condition that affected the person's gait. Again, he was found on Oak Beach, about a half a mile east of Gilgo 4. Only male victim found closer to Gilgo, to the Gilgo 4 than the other victims were. Now, if you kind of picked up, a couple of times I've said found east of, found east of, found east of. Starting to put this together as a clue that, found east, found facing east. Kind of sounds a little familiar to, I believe it was, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think the bodies that were found in Jersey were also facing east. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look into that. I do have it in my notes, but not right in front of me. For the Asian man, there was blunt force trauma and was wearing women's clothing at the time. And like I said, was transgender. The Asian man was not decapitated. He was not dismembered. His body was found intact, just like the other 2 men from Manorville. Now, the Asian man was not found in Manorville. He was found on Ocean Parkway near the Gilgo 4. So that's 3 men. And if you ever notice, they only say 1 man John Doe Asian male. They sometimes will bring up John Doe number 2, but they never bring up John Doe number 3. And, you know, even though they have not officially been connected to the Gilgo Beach murders, the Long Island serial killer, there's so many similarities: the duct tape, the burlap sacks, the, the girls being decapitated, the girls also having the duct tape. So there's so many similarities. And, you know, again, I just want to put it out there. These people were more than what they did. We need to remember that they were more than what they did. They were somebody's son. They were somebody's brother, parent, cousin. You know, they were people. And every single one of these victims deserves justice. That is the Manorville 4 and the Asian male who cannot be forgotten. There's other murder victims that can't be forgotten as well. Let's say their names. Number 1, Karen Vata. She was Jane Doe number 7 in 1996, found on Fire Island, and in 2011 on Ocean Parkway west of Tobay Beach, and was identified in 2023 as Karen Vata. In 1996, at the age of 34, Karen Vata went missing. She was found on Fire Island, the Blue Point area, in a black garbage bag with legs in it. Her toes were painted red. It said that her manicure was fresh. Now, we are hearing a lot of new news about Karen Vata, and that she may have been at Rex Heuermann's home on February 14th, 1996, which is the date of when she went missing. Now, the person that is giving this information said that her and her police officer boyfriend had picked up Karen Vata, who they believe to be Karen Vata, and brought her to Rex Heuermann's home for a swinger party. They picked her up because she looked hungry and disheveled and dirty. Well, when she was found, every newspaper article identified her as legs found on Davis Park, fresh red manicure on the toes. So if she was dirty, she wouldn't have a fresh manicure. And she had recently just gotten out of jail. So that manicure could have been really fresh. And so that part of that story is not making a little bit of sense to me. A lot of it does make sense, but that part of it does not. In 2011, her skull was found on Ocean Parkway west of Tobay Beach in Nassau County. She was unidentified for 27 years, being identified this year, 2023, as Karen Vata. She was said to have been, like I said, at Rex's house, February of 1996. So there's some new information. Is it true? I still haven't made a decision on how I feel about it, but the fresh manicure kind of throws me off a little bit. Number 2 would be Peaches. Peaches has been unidentified for 27 years. She is Jane Doe number 3 and Baby Doe's mom. She is referred to as Peaches because of her tattoo, and still a Jane Doe 27 years later. If you take a very, very close look at her tattoo and zoom in on the picture, there are initials and numbers on the leaves of the tattoo. Now, this looks like it says TBA to me on the left-hand side, but I can't guarantee that's what it says. This picture is pictures of her tattoo. That is the green can that she was found in. And the number where you see the number 4, that is the location where she was found. Her torso was found in that green bin in June of 1997 in Hempstead Lake State Park in Lakeview. On April 11th, her legs and arms were found in a plastic bag with gold jewelry, and she was severed below the knee 10 miles east, there's that word again, east of Jones Beach State Park. She's African American, and it's said that her and her daughter are the only African Americans, but there is another possible victim, Cheris, with a tattoo, who is also African American. And in 2016, it was said that she is Baby Doe's mom. I've had a couple of people ask me to back up the information I knew, so that's why this is here. This is number 3, Peach's child. Baby Doe, found in 2011, aged 16 to 18 months. DNA proved Peaches is her mother. She was found in 2011 off of Oak Beach. She's never been identified. She would be 27 years old now. She was found on April 4th, 2011, approximately 250 feet away from the partial remains of Valerie Mack. Baby Doe was wrapped in a blanket and showed no visible signs of trauma. She was wearing gold earrings and a necklace, which were found along Ocean Parkway. She was found along Ocean Parkway between Oak Beach and Gilgo Beach. 6 days later, before Peaches was found, Baby Doe was found. And like I said, the DNA linked her to Peaches being her mother in December of 2016. Next, which if connected would be the very first victim, was found in 1982 in Brentwood, New York. Tina Foglia. Say her name. Tina Foglia. She was found on Robert Moses Causeway in 1982. Tina Elizabeth was 19 years old. She was found on February 3rd of 1982 on the Sagatost Parkway, which is in Suffolk County as well. She was 5 foot 2 inches tall and placed in 3 separate garbage bags a few miles north of the Robert Moses Causeway, which leads to Gilgo Beach and Oak Beach. DNA of an unknown male was found on the garbage bags that Tina's body was in. She was also missing a diamond ring. She was born in 1962 and died in 1982. She's from Brentwood, New York. She was approximately 185 pounds. She was severed cleanly as with a butcher knife. Tina loved music, and she had gone to a concert that night, and it was called Hammerheads in West Islip nightclub. And again, she was last seen on February 1st and found on February 3rd. The next unspoken victim is Jacqueline Ashley Smith, who was last seen on August 7th, 1999. She was reported missing on August 12th of 1999 and found in June 20th, 2000. Her torso was in bags wrapped with tape near the beach on 88th Street in Rockaway Beach, Queens. No other body parts have been recovered. 2 years later, Andre Jamal Isaac would be found in the same exact location. Say her name, Jacqueline Ashley Smith. She was only 16 years old. The next unspoken victim is Andre Jamal Isaac, who was also known as Sugar Bear. His torso was found December 2002 in Far Rockaway, Queens. Then, in January, his head with a bullet wound to the temple was found in Moriches, New York, which is way out east on Long Island. His arms and legs were found in a plastic bag several miles away. His torso was close to the boardwalk on 63rd Street in Avern, Far Rockaway, Queens. And like I said, his head was found way out east in Suffolk County, Mill Pond in Moriches. Now remember the word Moriches, New York, which is out east past Manorville. I used to work right down the block, and I actually used to bring some of my residents to this pond, and it just, wow, like so many connections I have. I was at Davis Park when Karen Vagata was there. Gilgo Beach, my first, outing with my husband, one of my first outing with my now husband was at Gilgo Beach. And Mill Pond, we used to bring residents there so they can see the ducks. Was in the medical fields and working with children. And there's just so many connections, and this is why I have been researching this since 1996. So when you ask me, where do you get your information from? How can you back it? Well, you're looking at pictures now, and you're looking at information. I have been researching for a very long time, and I can back everything I say. Number 7, unspoken about possible victim is Jamie Diane Seymour. She's still missing and was last seen in the Manhattan Port Authority, which is the same exact place that Jessica Taylor was last seen. She was reported missing on August 8th of 2005. She went to the Manhattan Port Authority from New Jersey. She was born on March 7th, 1984, and she was known to be a drug user and escort. But more than that, she was a person. Say her name. Jamie Diane Seymour, age 21. Number 8, unspoken about possible victim, was 2007, known as Cheris. To this day, she is still unidentified. She was found in a suitcase in Oyster Bay. Cheris was found March 3rd, 2007, and went missing in 2003. She has never been identified. Her torso washed up on a beach at Harbor Island Park in the town of Manorville in a suitcase. It had a torso of 2 and a tattoo of 2 cherries on it. It was on her left breast, just like Peaches. On March 21st, 2007, one of her legs washed up at Cold Spring Harbor. And on March 22nd, 2007, her other leg washed up at Oyster Bay in the village of Cove Neck, which is located within the town of Oyster Bay in Nassau County. Harbor Island is in the town of Hempstead, New York, again in Nassau County, and she is either Hispanic or light-skinned African American. There are quite a few similarities to Peaches. Both were found in the town of Hempstead. Both had fruit tattoos on the left breast. They were both decapitated. Both of them, their skulls were never found. Both of them share the same race. They are light-skinned African American, possibly Hispanic. And another one is that they were not in bags. They were in garbage cans, and Peaches was in the garbage can, and Cheris was in a suitcase. So there's quite a few similarities between those two, and they, to this day, 27 years later, still do not have a name. Next is a name we all know very well, and whose attorney has kept this case going. Her name is Shannon Marie Gilbert, and she was found December 13th, 2011. Shannon had gone to meet with a client. She had lived in New Jersey and was in Manhattan with her driver, Michael Pack, and she was meeting with her client, Michael Brewer, at Oak Beach Association. She was there for at least 4 to 5 hours and actually had left his house with Michael Brewer because they needed lube and I think condoms, and she had asked Michael Pack to go and get them, but he said he wasn't familiar with the area, so the three of them had gone together. So at that point, Shannon was not afraid of Joseph Brewer, and it's actually, the phone records show that they had all left the house together. So that is something that is confirmed. So they all left the house. They went back to the house. I don't know what happened in the time that they were gone. But if you listen very closely to the phone call that Shannon made, she's kind of mad at Michael Pack for using her real name. And she's like, why are you calling me by my real name? And then when she's talking to the police, she's saying, they are after me. And it kind of showed that, she wasn't afraid of Brewer, because when she was talking to him, she wasn't talking to him in like fear. Like her voice was kind of different when she was talking to Brewer than how she was talking to Pack. She was kind of afraid of Pack. And when she ran off, when she knocked on that first door, she stayed there until she saw Michael Pack's car coming. When she saw his car coming, she took off and she hid under a boat. So he was, looking for her. So it's, like all the doors that she knocked on, it kind of sounded like, she would knock on the door because she couldn't maybe see his truck at that point. And then when she saw the truck, she got scared and took off. So I truly believe that with Shannon Gilbert, there is definitely more than one suspect. In a lot of these people, I believe there is more than one suspect. I think Rex is just one of them. And I'm waiting for him to kind of speak out, because I do not think that he worked alone. I think a lot of these were group efforts, and I'm going to get into that in another video. But Shannon Gilbert, like I said, if it wasn't for her family and her attorney being so, let's keep this going, find the information, I want to know. And, John Ray has been a huge advocate for all of these women. Even though he is not the attorney for all of them, he still has stood up for all of them and has opened his door to take information and take statements from people, which I think is absolutely amazing. Like I said, Shannon Gilbert, she went missing on May 1st of 2010, and she was found on December 13th, 2011. And her boyfriend at the time, Alex, is the one that actually notified the family that she was missing. Her and Alex had a very, let's say he was, DV. He had actually broken her jaw at one point, so that's why she had that metal plate that was in her jaw. So there is so much about Shannon Gilbert, and the information that I have on her and the situation there, that will take a whole entire video in itself for me to make. But again, if it wasn't for her, this case would have never gone anywhere. Her family is the one that got the lawyer who, it's now 13 years later, and he is still pushing to make this case stay alive. So, John Ray, I don't know if you're watching this video, but if you are, thank you for being so vigilant and, continuing to keep all of these girls going and opening your door to accept information. Girls and guys. I need to correct that. That is girls and guys. The next unspoken possible victim is Natasha Hugo, who was found in 2013, and she was found floating in the water on Gilgo Beach. Her wallet, some of her clothes were found on Ocean Parkway. She was from Queens, New York, and her items were found by her car, but she was found floating in the water. So this one could be possibly a suicide, or it could be connected to the Long Island serial killer, LISK. It's still unknown. And she, like I said, she was found June 24th, 2013. Number 11 unspoken victim is Patricia Viola, found in Far Rockaway, Queens in New York. She is a possible victim. She was found close to Queens. Her remains were found in Queens, and she was found 30 miles from her home. She's a housewife. Her foot was found first. Again, she was decapitated. Victim number 12 that is unspoken about. Not much is known about. Still a Jane Doe, age between 20 to 30, found in Laddington near Oyster Bay, wrapped in a specific material which has not been released. She was wearing a pig pendant. And then there is the most recent possible victim, number 13. Recently found this month, November of 23, Yelli AB Ramos from Brentwood, New York, was found in Sunken Meadow Parkway, Kings Park. I honestly don't think that this is connected to the Long Island serial killer. I think this may be connected to MS-13, which is very well known in Brentwood, New York. He's 20 years old, was 20 years old, and he was found in the Sunken Meadow State Parkway in Kings Park from Brentwood, like Tina was in 1982. He was found in the eastern, here we go again with eastern end of the park, and it's 30 minutes away from Rex Uerman's home. He was killed recently. Too much information has not been given out yet, but it has been ruled a suicide. Sorry, correction. It has been ruled a homicide. Again, like I said, MS-13 is very prominent in that area. Like I said, I've been researching this since 1996, and it really bothers me that all of the names are not being spoken about. Yes, the Gilgo 4 are important, but so are the Manorville 4, and so are the other victims, and there's still 3 to 4 Jane Does that still need a name. The Asian male, Baby Doe, Peaches, Cheris, and the woman with the pig pendant. That is 5 Jane Does and John Does that still do not have a name, as well as the 2 Manorville, well, the 1 Manorville Jane Doe. These maps are showing where these bodies were found. And like I said, it's not only the Gilgo 4. They all need to be spoken about. Every single victim deserves to be able to rest in peace and have their murderer identified. How many of the names in this video have you heard? That's 13 that I pointed out, plus the 4 from Manorville, the Asian male, which is a John Doe, and the Gilgo 4, Amber Costello, Melissa Bartholomew, Megan Waterman, and Maureen Bernard Barnes. That's 22 Long Island serial killer possible victims. Say all of their names. Now, there's a connection between the Oak Beach Association, Dr. Hackett, who called Shannon's mom, if you remember. So he had to have had her cell phone in order to have her phone number and her name. Now, before Shannon was found, he listed his home at the Oak Beach Association for sale and used a realtor that was in Mauritius, which is where the head floated up of one of the John Does. Now, why would he use a Mauritius-based realtor to sell his home when he could have gotten one much closer to where he lives? He, I just don't understand, and it doesn't make any sense. I mean, he sold his house very quickly. Why would he use a realtor in Mauritius, which is 41 minutes away, as you can see on this map? Why would you go 41 minutes away to Mauritius, where, like I said, that head was found floating from that John Doe found in Manorville? There's more connections, and I truly believe that Rex did not work alone. I really do. I believe Dr. Hackett was involved, and I believe in some way Chief James Burke was also involved. I don't think that Brewer was alone at his house that night. I believe that she was set up, and possibly when she got to that house, Rex Uerman was there, maybe Chief Burke, and I believe Dr. Hackett is involved. I really, really, truly believe he did not work alone. So with all that being said, you have now seen who the Manorville 4 are, who the Asian male is, and who all of the other victims are. Every single victim deserves to be spoken about and to be remembered, and they all deserve to have some form of justice. With Commissioner Harrison resigning, I truly worry about where this case is going to go. I know people will continue to bring information to Attorney John Ray, and like I said, I am so thankful for him because he has truly kept this case alive. But Commissioner Harrison worked alongside and would accept information from Attorney John Ray. Will whoever is going into office do the same, or will this case go cold again? We cannot allow this case to go cold. We need to keep this information going and keep it where it's in authorities' faces and let them know that people want justice for every single victim. And I know I put out a lot of information, but I wanted to back all the names that I mentioned in the last video. So now you have faces to put together with the names. Remember every single name. With that said, thank you all for being here. I truly appreciate your support. Don't forget to hit that like button. It is so important to get my video into the algorithm. And just remember, every day is a mystery.